Hey, Level Up team. Today I'm here with Area 4 President Brian Koo. Brian, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself a little, give us a bit of a rundown.
So, as Zayne mentioned, my name is Brian Koo. I'm Area 4 President of Deca and a state officer, serving as the Vice President of Career Development. And just to give a summary of what I do for Deca, we pretty much help students realize how we could apply Deca into the real world and teach them a few skills that they could use as they move on to the business world or in any profession that they want to do. And in my experience with competitions, I've worked with a few local businesses, acting as a consultant from everything from digital marketing to advising a new operations plan for the next upcoming year.
Love it, love it. And so today's topic, just for all the listeners, is really about differentiation. So I want to just dive into the first point here. And so Brian, what are the different points of differentiation that you take a look at when you're going over business plans, or different things that you can add to really set yourself apart in terms of writing a business plan?
Yeah, I think one of the common misconceptions about business plans is that each business needs to look for the same point of differentiation, and that's obviously not true. One of the business plans I wrote last year was for a cookie dough business, and specifically what we keyed in on in the points of differentiation is how marketable we can make their products on social media, because they have extremely nice interior and exterior design. So the points of differentiation that we focused on for that business was making sure that they stress their nice products being extremely Instagrammable, as they call it these days. But if we're looking at something like a financial firm, obviously the points of differentiation would be better rates or more cash incentives. So depending on what direction your business wants to take, you want to be looking in that direction for a point of differentiation. Like, it doesn't make sense for like something like Chase Bank to put all their efforts into being super Instagrammable. Mm-hmm. And conversely, it doesn't make sense for a cookie dough shop to offer just extremely good financial or credit rates.
Mm-hmm. Right. So understanding sort of what the business landscape is from not only an industry perspective, but then also individual as well. So are there certain things that you think, I guess, can businesses thrive without differentiation, or is it really, really vital for all businesses to find some sort of innovative or creative advantage to stand apart?
And I think, again, something that gets overglossed on is that every business essentially has a point of differentiation. Mm-hmm. What separates the obvious ones from the non-obvious ones is how much they're able to stress it and stick with this overall theme. So all businesses are founded pretty much with a theme to accomplish a goal in the end, right? So the point of differentiation for that business will be found in that initial goal. So for a business to not have a point of differentiation, it means they didn't have a purpose for starting up their business, which pretty much happens to nobody. So everybody has a point of differentiation. It's about recognizing what you do well and what you want to stress, and just carrying that out and broadcasting it to the rest of the world to know how you're different from the other products or businesses on the market.
Mm-hmm. And so double clicking into that idea of separating yourself, are there certain areas of the business that you can identify in terms of what their points of differentiation look like? So I know you tapped into the Chase and cookie dough company. Do you think everybody has that sort of point? Or I guess, what would those points be if you could just list them out for the listeners?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you want to do when identifying your point of differentiation is look at the target market of the business. You got to be looking at demographics, psychographics, so what age they're in, what they like to do in their free time. And then from there, you could develop your point of differentiation. So whether it's looking at what makes your business successful, and you're obviously going to be needing to do tons of market research pretty much. Whereas if you change one thing on your product packaging, for example, and let's just say a ton of sales come in, there is a point of differentiation for you. Mm-hmm. But conversely, if you change a ton of things on your packaging and nothing comes in, then you could pretty much eliminate that as a point of differentiation, move on to something else, and find really the niche that your business is able to fit into.
Perfect. Love it. And do you think that there's a limit in terms of points of differentiation that each business can have, or it's really just dependent on the industry and sort of different micro advantages that each business can gain?
I kind of like in the middle of that one, because obviously once a business starts to focus a little too much on like creating, oh, we're so different from them, we're so different from them, then you really lose the identity of your business.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
naturally, there will be a set cap for what a business can differentiate itself, simply because that's just the overall theme of the business, right? So at a certain point, you have to recognize when the business is staying true to itself to differentiate, versus when it's just differentiating for the purpose of being different and attracting attention. And I think that's another pitfall that businesses can fall into, is when they start straying from their values in order to make themselves stand out on the market, versus if you always stick to your values and do it well, you eventually will stand out in the market in some way.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Exactly. Defining success as a business really early on and what that looks like, not only from a pure metric standpoint and taking a look at what you want those metrics to look like at the end of the year, but then also on the flip side in terms of customer relationships and being able to build a brand that a lot of people resonate with. And so, do you think that in terms of Deca, when people are writing their business plans, should they focus on two main points of differentiation and go really in depth on those, or should it be 5 to 6 and then just vague responses in terms of different things that they can add for that?
Yeah, especially for the Deca business plan. So there is a 20-page word limit, or I guess page count or page
Mm,
limit that you can't go over. And I guess ideally in the real world, you want to go in depth in as many areas as possible. But for the sake of the Deca paper, I think in terms of points of differentiation, it's better to focus in on 2 things or 3 things that your business does really well. Because after you get past that 3-ish limit, you start to get a little vague, and your analysis isn't as deep as it would be as when you focus on the 2 to 3 central points that make the business what it is. And if you're able to really just hone in on those 2 points, you'll have a fantastic paper that tells both the judges, you, the business, what separates it and what will make it successful. Versus once you start going to the 4, 5, 6, you start to get into this area where everybody could kind of do that differentiation, and it's
mm-hmm,
not
mm-hmm.
really unique to your business.
Perfect, perfect. And then just in terms of taking these points of differentiation and then potentially measuring their overall success, how would you do that? Is it based on analyzing future customer experiences, taking a look in terms of a retrospective point of view and seeing what has worked for other businesses through use cases? How would you go about understanding what the landscape of differentiation looks like based on the industry and business?
Yeah, I think what I did for my business plan was I kind of did a combination of both, right? So there's obviously going to be a ton of marketing information online that you have access to if you just look it up. So if you combine what has worked for other businesses in the past or what other market research surveys have popped up, you get that information and then combine it and apply it into the new landscape given the rising trends of your industry. You could come up with something that is really supported by facts and statistics, and you have good evidence as to why the past will apply into the future.
Were there specific things that you did when you were cultivating your business plan in terms of looking at past companies or taking a look and sort of understanding what the landscape was going to be and calculating everything that is going to look like in terms of projections and revenue and sort of trends within social media and how marketing was going to work? I guess, can you walk me through that process that you went through last year where you were able to place it state?
Yeah, so one thing that I did was you look at these big name corporate companies, because they have the budget, they have the teams to make everything work, and you just think about how you could scale that down. And once you figure out how to scale it down, you have really easy like ballpark estimates of where your business should be based on how scaled it down is from the original business. For an example, one thing that we did for my business plan was, I think it was 2 years ago, was we modeled it off the North Face adventure model, where they would essentially give rewards points to customers who took their North Face products into famous like sightseeing landmarks or anything like that. And we thought about how we could implement that into our business and we analyzed the statistics about how well it performed, the metrics of what the return ratio was. And we essentially took the size of North Face, created like a scalar metric and how we could apply everything that they had from the returns that they had from their model into our new business. And we were able to get some pretty ballpark estimates of what the returns would be given if we copied the North Face model, but on a smaller scale.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I've been doing a lot of research lately just for one of my own personal projects, and a lot of it has been taking a look at different use cases and then attempting to scale those down, like you alluded to, and then really match them up with the corporation. So, do you also take a look at anecdotal evidence and potentially conducting your own research surveys for a group of people, or is it purely just taking a look at sort of these flagship companies and then pulling out ideas from there?
I think it's important to get a measure of both. I think the big name companies are where you should get your general information. And once from there, you could host like smaller focus groups where you could get very anecdotal, very personal evidence about how this would affect them or how they could implement it into their lives. So you use this, I guess, research or plan put out by these big name companies to guide how you want to shape your business plan, or how you could, again, develop points of differentiation using the model that they already set out. Because a lot of the successful stuff, it's already out there for you. You don't need to invent something new. You just need to find out how you could take what worked for someone else and make it work for you.
And do you think that evidence from flagships appeals more to investors than potentially small business statistics? Which one would appeal more to judges or investors if you were in those shoes?
Yeah, I think it's a part of human nature where if you see a statistic of how much this action plan returned for a certain business, you're going to be more likely to support it because it's shown to be proven to work in the past. But one thing you got to make sure to do when you're explaining it is how you can make it work, but on a smaller scale. And a lot of the plans that larger businesses put out work a lot of the time because they have that larger budget, they have that larger support team. But in your business plan, if you're going to try to scale it down, you need to make sure to explain why it would work, even given your small business, when you don't have the same resources that they have.
And does this require a lot of research on competition as well and finding out certain things that they've done? How would you leverage both personal research, understanding differentiation, but then also tapping into sort of that competitive analysis part of it as well?
I definitely think looking into the competitors plays a good role, but a lot of the models that you're taking from these large flagship companies, they don't have to be necessarily in the same industry, right? So it's all about when you're writing the business plan, I guess approaching business in general, it's all about putting it into your own perspective. So obviously you're going to need competitor analysis, but for your own industry, competing with, I guess when you're a smaller business, you have to compete with both the larger and the smaller ones, versus if you're a large business, you only need to really compete with the other large names, right? So you have to take that in mind when you're accounting for the factors that derive the competitive environment of your given industry.
And then double clicking into that idea again of competition and sort of how that analysis relates to differentiation, how do you cultivate different points that cannot be easily replicated from businesses? Is it taking a really, really creative strategy to a problem, or potentially diving into innovation and tech to a certain problem? How would you go about creating things that can be easily replicated?
I think the best ideas that can't be replicated are ones that are specific to the theme of your business in general. So each business is started with its own unique purpose, right? So even though any other business could do Instagram ads, right? Any other business could do, I guess, like a merchandise release. But because of the given purpose behind the business, it makes it special why you're doing each step of like each thing. So let's just say a business has extremely positive corporate social responsibility, right? And they launch a new Instagram promotion supporting veterans or something like that. Even though like another business could copy, I guess, enforcing a corporate social responsibility plan, it won't be as special because the business that originally did it had extreme ties to like veterans and supporting all these different causes. So they're staying true to themselves. And I think a lot of customers in the marketplace can easily recognize when a business is trying to copy something versus when it's their own original ideas derived from their business's founding values.
Perfect, Brian. Before I get into my last question here, just want to give you huge shout outs. Really appreciate the chance to connect with you and just go over some of these points of differentiation, and really appreciate your insight in terms of past success that you've had within Deca and different things that our listeners can move forward with.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
So where in your business plan can you mention these points of differentiation? Is it within that competitive analysis? Is it within the executive summary? Where would you put those points?
Honestly, in my plan, we kind of, anywhere possible, we look to incorporate it into our plan, just because points of differentiation is something you want to constantly stress, because even in your financials, why are your financials going to be better than someone else? Oh, it's points of differentiation. Why will your business succeed in the given environment? It's points of differentiation. So any way why you could pitch to an investor and why your business will be successful will be due to the points of differentiation. So you want to be mentioning that as much as possible. And it doesn't have to be long. It could just be like, as we talked about more in depth in section 4 or something, and then you reference a quick sentence, and then the judge is able to connect back to everything and back to your points of differentiation as to why your business will be successful and is worth investing in.
Perfect. Brian, just a quick insider question here. Any feedback or, total, I guess, different things that some of our listeners should be taking a look at in terms of heading into area competition this year?
Yeah, I think one thing that separates the really good Deca competitors from the newer ones is the use of statistics. I mean, you really want to be using statistics to back up your argument, because statistics can convey in literally one number what a paragraph of words cannot, because it's factual. You can't really doubt like the truth of statistic because it simply exists. It's not making any claim, but it's up to you to apply that statistic to make really solid and sound arguments as to why your plan or why your business should be successful.
Perfect. Again, Brian, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.